Hi everybody, welcome to this new video for the GenAI Nerd channel. And in this video I want to tell you more about notebooks in Copilot. So this will be a video where we use Copilot, which is actually used a lot within corporate and company environments as the kind of generative AI system that employees can use because it's a very safe and reliable tool. Now I have to say, like 1 year ago, I would say it was really not up to standards, but recently in Copilot, a lot of tools have been introduced that actually make it much more helpful. And one of these tools is definitely notebooks. So what I will do in this video is to briefly explain what notebooks are, how you can create them, and then I will show you a specific example how I have created a notebook to help me with dedicated brainstorming. So let's get started. Yes, so let me briefly explain what notebooks actually are. So when you go to your Copilot, let me show you now how my Copilot looks like. You can click here and then you will see we have agents, which I will actually discuss in another video. But here we have notebooks. And notebooks you can see as a kind of separate folders into your Copilot environment, where you can create a special environment to do specific tasks that you have to do on a regular basis. And so if you have a specific task that you have to do quite often, you don't want every time to have to write an extensive prompt where you give a lot of context, where you might give additional files. We want to have kind of a specific folder that already understands what it needs to do. And that's what you can do with notebooks, which is actually similar to what you can do with projects in ChatGPT or Claude AI. So let me now show you how you can create a notebook, and it's actually quite straightforward. So when we are in notebooks, you have to click on create a new notebook, and then here we get into environment. So now I have to give my notebook a name, and let's now call it briefly test, and I can add create, and then I can do a number of things. First of all, I can click here on instructions, and then here I can actually stipulate an identity for this particular notebook. So every time when I do a prompt in that notebook, it will take this identity into account. Yeah, so here I can formulate what ChatGPT should be in this particular notebook, how I need to act in this particular notebook, so you can describe it a bit, and then it will remember that when executing every single prompt in this project. So that's the first thing you can add. And on top of that, you can also add files here, which is called references. So here I can simply add files that are relevant for executing the particular task that I want to execute in this notebook. So in that way, you can actually kind of train this notebook to execute a specific activity. You have to see it a bit. We always say that GenAI is an intern. Now, if you do normal prompting in the normal chat, you have a general intern. Here, actually, by means of a notebook, we can already pre-train our intern to do a specific task. So let me now show you an example of how I have trained a specific notebook to do problem ideation. Yes, so here we are in my problem ideator. And so what did I do here? First of all, I've given it specific instructions. So let's take a look at the instructions. So here are the instructions how ChatGPT should behave in this particular notebook. Yeah, so here I've given an explicit description of how it should behave. So you can see I'm saying you are a digital facilitator that helps students, especially novice entrepreneurs, to identify genuine, compelling startup pain points. And then I give a much more extensive description on how it should behave here. So the more information you give here, the more specific you train your notebook to execute a particular task. So that's what I did here. Yeah. So we can save that. So that's our identity. And on top of that, I have given the notebook a particular file. So I've given it actually a PDF with best practices for early stage customer discovery interviews. So I can briefly show you what this file is about. Actually, this is a file that I created with deep research about best practices for ideation. Yeah? So this is actually a deep research report that gives best practice for ideation. And in the notebook, I'm actually giving this file as kind of background knowledge as a reference. So this is the information I provided the notebook, background knowledge about best practices, a clear description of the identity, and now I can start chatting within this particular notebook. And this is then simply chatting as you would chat in general. So here I could say, I want to explore a pain point, for creating a new startup. And then I can press enter. And now you see, okay, let's explore a pain point together. And now it already gives me some options, and these are kind of the options that I trained it to give to the person using this particular notebook. And now I can ask follow-up questions. And so now I can use, for instance, the dictate option to make it easier for me. So let's do that briefly. I want to explore a pain point from my personal life, and it should be like a 15-minute sprint. So now I dictated my answer and press enter. And now you will see that Copilot will take the next step. Yeah, so it's understood, okay, we need to do a 15-minute sprint. And now it tells me a bit how we can do that. Step 1. And now it says, okay, please jot down 3 to 5 of these specific moments, like explained here, so that it can help me to identify pain points. So now I've created a notebook where I or my students can step by step start exploring pain points. And the only thing I had to do is to give it a specific identity and some specific files. And that means now that every time when I need to do pain point ideation, I can use this notebook. It will already have a lot of information and I don't have to repeat that every time. So this makes you very efficient in starting to use prompting where you don't have to give all information every time. Moreover, in this way, you can create different notebooks for different identities doing different tasks. Yeah? So sometimes I want to use Copilot for a financial analysis, and then I will use a notebook that is trained to be a financial analyst. When I want to do ideation, I have a notebook where it's trained to be a good ideator. So in that way, depending on the type of task that you want to execute, you can create different kinds of notebooks, which can be really helpful. So I hope this makes clear how you can use notebooks in Copilot, which I think is a very valuable addition to the Copilot environment. And if you're interested, please don't forget to subscribe so that you can follow up the videos that I post also about different kinds of Copilot applications. Thanks for your attention. Bye.